Okay, then I think we are about ready to start. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rebecca, back again for MC of this session, which is with Mohammed. It is Wikidata and how to use it to support your minority languages. So Mohammed Sadat Abduli is the Community Communications Manager with Wikidata and Wikibase with Wikimedia Deutschland. And I'm not going to labour an introduction more than that. I'm going to give over as much time as possible to Mohammed. Thank you very much for joining us. And I very much look forward to hearing all about this. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Rebecca. So my name is Mohammed. I work with Wikimedia Germany as communications manager for Wikidata and Wikibase. So this presentation is hopefully going to be a short onboarding of Wikidata so that participants can get the basics of Wikidata and how you can use it to support minority languages. There will be no practical editing, as this will be covered in a later session. Wikidata is a free knowledge base that is based on facts and references that anyone can edit and reuse. Data in Wikidata is released under CC0 license, meaning Wikidata's data is in the public domain and has no exclusive intellectual property rights applied to it. Wikidata is part of the Wikimedia project, and like all of its sister projects, Wikidata is multilingual and has no language barriers. Wikidata is not a primary source of information. It only basically aggregates or collects structured data that is already available, some of which are linked to other databases. So it's not a place, it's not meant to be a place for original research. Wikidata is made for humans and machines, and is available for everyone to use, whether on other Wikimedia projects or outside of it. What is in Wikidata? So Wikidata was launched some 12 years ago, and it was originally created to solve the problem of unstructuredness in the plain text format that information in Wikipedia is usually rendered in, and also to provide a central storage location where all the different language Wikipedias can connect and talk to each other. Wikidata has since outgrown its intended purpose, and today it is the most edited Wikimedia project with more than 1 billion edits and 87 million items. And the numbers here in the slide keep increasing every day. It's interesting to note that the largest proportion of Wikidata's items are scholarly articles, comprising about 30% of the whole. Wikidata currently has more than 25,000 editors who make at least one edit every month. Wikidata is used across 800 of the Wikimedia project in more than 300 different languages. In fact, Wikidata has become so big and so successful that Wikidata's data is now used more outside of the Wikimedia project than within it. So in a nutshell, Wikidata can be thought of as an online repository of structured data that anyone can edit and reuse. Wikidata is ideal for structured data that can be expressed with very flexible data models that use the subject, predicate, object, as statements. And as Wikidata says, items, properties, and values. So how does Wikidata store data? Everything on Wikidata is given a unique identifier. So an item like San Francisco has a unique QID, Q62, and we can have several properties that define San Francisco as a city. San Francisco is described here, for example, as having the population property with a value of 77,000. And that is an example of one statement. San Francisco has a mayor, and the value of the mayor is Gavin Newsom, which in turn has the unique identifier Q461391. And that is another statement, another single statement that describes San Francisco as a city. As you can see, data statements link to each other, enabling wider discovery and reasoning. Now, at the same time, San Francisco could mean something entirely different. For example, San Francisco can be somebody's name. And Wikidata is perfectly capable of handling multiple items with the same label name. In that case, so it will have different statements, defined by different kinds of properties, such as instance of a human, the gender of the person, the family name of the person, and then the country of citizenship of the person, etc. So now, what should you expect to see on a typical Wikidata item? So as mentioned, Wikidata expresses relationships in the form of triples that use items starting with a Q and properties starting with a P. And the item will typically be made up of at least one statement. So in this example, we have two statements about an entity called Douglas Adams. The first statement, Douglas Adams, Q42, was educated at P69, St. John's College, which is some other QID. And this statement is qualified by further properties like the academic major, academic degree, the start time, and the end time. So basically, qualifiers add more meaning to statements. Okay. Wikidata records not just statements, but also their sources. And this helps us to reflect the notion of verifiability on the project. So that statement, Douglas Adams, Q42, was educated at P69, St. John's College, has two open references that points to the source of that information. The second statement, Douglas Adams, Q42, was educated at P69, Brentwood School, which also it's some other QID, only has the qualifiers start time and end time, and has no references. So a single statement consists of a property made up of a value with or without a reference and with or without qualifiers. Wikidata has a vision, and that vision is to give more people more access to more knowledge. Wikidata gives people access to information regardless of the language that they speak, and that is, this is what embodies the vision of Wikidata. Because Wikidata is multilingual, it expects translations of so-called Q numbers into different languages. One of the key features of the Wikibase software, the software that powers Wikidata, is really its ability to structure data and connect concepts such that every concept can then be translated into all available languages. So for example, Wikidata stores Q2, which in English is translated to F, and also in other languages. Basically, this allows people to collaborate across language and cultural barriers on a shared knowledge base. And in doing so, Wikidata helps us support the smaller Wikimedia projects better by helping them benefit from all the work that is being done in the bigger project. So why translate labels on Wikidata? Users can set their preferred language in the preferences menu after logging in. However, whenever there isn't a translation available for a label or a description or a property, it will revert back to English or to the item's Q number. So ultimately, if we want to improve accessibility for minority languages on Wikidata, it's very essential that we get more editors translating labels in their preferred languages so that we can sort of get a better representation of all the languages on Wikidata. We'll talk about tools in a minute, but one tool that is really helpful for this purpose is the Wikidata Terminator. So basically, the Wikidata Terminator quickly produces a list of labels missing in your language, and you get to add the translations directly in Wikidata by selecting the Q number you wish to translate. So now, how is Wikidata connected to Wikipedia and other Wikimedia projects? Among other things, Wikidata can assist sister projects with more easily maintainable Infoboxes. And this is very important. So the table at the right-hand corner of this article on Wikipedia is called an Infobox, and you've definitely seen it before. Wikipedia is able to retrieve content from Wikidata into Infoboxes. And for smaller language Wikipedias like the Welsh or the Catalan Wikipedia, that readily leverages Wikidata to seed their content This goes a long way to reducing editing workload for volunteers while also improving quality of content. This is an example of a Wikipedia Infobox generated automatically from Wikidata. So Infoboxes summarizes the most important facts relating to a particular entity. So for many articles in your language that have no Infoboxes, or Infoboxes with only minimal information, Wikidata allows you to take advantage of all the statements it knows about that particular entity. When you click on the pen icon in the Infobox, it redirects you to the particular Wikidata statement. Okay. And there you can decide to change the value in the statement for that item, which will then reflect in the Wikipedia article. I'm happy to say that the next big thing currently underway is the Wikidata Bridge project, which, where it's going to be made a lot more easier for people to edit Wikidata directly on Wikipedia. Aside from Infoboxes, you can also embed Wikidata's data into pages from other wikis by making use of a simple parser function that takes values as property and items. So doing an example using my sandbox, Accra is item Q3761 in Wikidata. Population is property P1082 in Wikidata. Therefore, according to Wikidata, the population of Accra is 2,291,352. And this is automatically generated from the parser function below. How it works, this function looks for a property P1082 and then extracts the value of the statement using the first value it finds on that statement, on that item. And I think this is quite useful for updating evolving facts on Wikipedia, like like numbers or names of office holders that may change regularly. This also means that there will be less maintenance works for volunteers. Now, there are numerous tools that allows us to be more efficient on Wikidata. We can use the Wikidata query service to ask complex questions of the data. Wikidata useful is used to display, so it's the Wikidata useful displays a form with predefined property item values so that you can quickly add statements to items. Tools like Quick Statements allows us to add more data quickly, and tools like Wikipedia and Inventor allows us to visualize what is already available on Wikidata. Among the tools are also scripts that you could install, like Name Gazla, that allows you to insert the same label or aliases in many languages at the same time. There are more of these tools can be found in the Wikidata tools page, but I'll highlight just a few. The Wikidata game is one tool that offers many activities, allowing you to make micro edits to Wikidata on the go. So it asks a question, and then based on the answer, it performs some action on your behalf, like adding an image to an item, or deciding whether a Wikipedia article in your language and a Wikidata item describe the same entity. I should mention that this game is most relevant for languages that still have gaps on Wikidata, but less so for larger, more complete languages. The Resonator is another tool that allows you to visualize Wikidata's data in really interesting ways. So Resonator is a tool that presents Wikidata data in human readable format. With that, you are presented with a format in the language of your choice that is less scarier than the Wikidata interface. This is largely useful for reading about things that exist on Wikidata, but do not yet have a Wikipedia article in your language. There is Crudest, which is a search and display engine for visual artworks. Crudest uses Wikidata and Wikimedia Commons files to display artworks in random or chronological order in more than 30 different languages. So search results can even be filtered using categories like painting, sculpture, or time periods, like from 1560 to 1760. There is also a combination mode for a contribution mode to that allows you to filter some missing properties for visual artwork. Yeah, similarly, Crudest and many other visualization tools can be found in the Wikidata tools page, where you can check out this link in the slide here. Now, what about interaction in your languages? So Wikidata is not only about concept, but also about words. And aside from concepts, the lexeme part of Wikidata is where we describe words and phrases, you know, in many languages. So we're able to describe their senses, their forms, and their meanings. And potential use cases for lexemes may include dictionaries, translation tools, and games. Okay, the Wikidata community tends to be quite helpful. So there are various locations on the wikis you could go and then you could visit and learn more. The project chats where people are able to ask all questions about all aspects of Wikidata, the project itself, the policy and proposals, and people tend to answer very fast on the project chat. There is the training portal where you can find materials and ideas for training those unfamiliar with Wikidata. Then there is the discussion list for the Wikidata project. There is the weekly summary, which summarizes the weekly summary newsletter, which summarizes all that happens around Wikidata on a weekly basis. And you can subscribe to get the weekly updates delivered straight to your talk page, or you can also get them via the mailing list. And there are social media handles, including Facebook, Twitter, and IRC. So that is, before I get into the questions, if I still have some time left, I'd like to give some announcements and point people to other interesting talks that they could look out for. So at 1 p.m. UTC today, our Cabot will be talking about Wikidata-powered Infoboxes on the Catalan Wikipedia. There will be a lecture about Wikidata-powered Infoboxes, followed by a hands-on part where Power will answer basic questions about how to implement, Infoboxes in Wikipedia that don't have them yet. On Friday, July the 10th, also at 1 p.m. UTC, Leah and Nicholas are doing a hands-on presentation on Wikidata and lexicographical data. So at that meeting, attendees will be led through editing a Wikidata item as well as lexemes. And with that, people will get an overview of what they can do to improve the visibility of their favorite language. Then there is the Sami place names on Wikidata in the video pool that was delivered by Yon. With this video, you will learn about the methods for adding place names to Wikidata and the work ongoing into bringing more Sami knowledge online. During the 2 days of the conference, you can also participate in the Wikidata help desk. So you can ask any questions related to Wikidata and get some help with all of the projects there. All right, that is it for the basics. And let's see if there are any questions, Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. That was really comprehensive. And I think especially for our attendees who are not Wikimedia users or who are used to editing their language Wikipedia, or perhaps are Wikimedians on Commons, I think having that introduction to Wikidata is really useful, because it can kind of feel like a data magic that happens elsewhere, away from the work that the editing that you might do on a day-to-day basis. So looking at the Etherpad in our chat, we have Leah, Nicholas, and a lot of other very helpful Wikidaticians who are supplying answers. So I just have one or two that I'm going to pull out. So just to re-emphasize again, the Infoboxes, which of course Pi will be demonstrating later, but really the utility of them, and the fact that just to reiterate that when something is centrally updated on Wikidata, it is then reflected on any Wikipedia that's using Infoboxes. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it lessens the workload. It means that if you are in a language Wikipedia that has a very small amount of editors, it means that if somebody on Wikidata updates a fact, that could be something as simple as, who's the president of Ireland, or who is the current Taoiseach or prime minister, and then it'll automatically change it on the relevant info boxes that are drawing in that data, or terms of office, that kind of thing. Yes. But from your point of view, I'd love to hear, do you have like a favorite, or like a particular project or something that has been done with Wikidata that is something that you think is particularly ingenious, or you thought was a really interesting use of Wikidata, or perhaps even just a type of, perhaps an editor or somebody who's contributing that you think is doing particularly interesting work?
Yeah, so one tool that I didn't mention in this slide, Listeria bot, which sort of, creates data from Wikidata and presents them on the Wikipedia pages in the form of lists, where you could actually use them if we are building a list of articles that are probably missing some statements or some values. You can use Listeria bots to actually pull data from Wikidata and then see what is available. And it's also very useful for people who are organizing editathons, if you sort of want to have an idea of what to edit. For example, in Ghana, there are these editathons happening about Ghanaian parliamentarians, and people are adding the position held and all of the various qualifiers that go with it, like when they started and when they ended, and then the occupation of the parliamentarians. So with the Listeria bot that they use, they are able to tell, okay, so how many MPs are still missing occupation properties, for example. That is very useful. I find really cool.
Yeah, I think when you're running events, and a few people have been doing it for a few years here, will remember that's getting those lists together was kind of the hard work in preparation for an editathon. And as you said, those lists are absolutely fantastic. You can have your query. And of course, Women in Red is the project that's really, I think, was a very early adopter of that and has streamlined their workflow immensely. Oh, excellent. And Jason Evans is saying that there is a Welsh version of Crotos, and there is a link there in the talk at the moment. But what we might do is we might capture that on the Etherpad as well to make sure that we have it within the note-taking as well, so that people can find it later on. I think on that note, we are just about at our time. Thank you so much, Mohammed. That was really interesting. And as somebody who dabbles, I think, is probably as far as I get with Wikidata, it's always great to get a refresher and to remember and be introduced to new projects and new tools that are being developed all the time. And just, I think just to flag up the success that Wikidata has been, how much it has grown and how quickly, I think is testament to its utility and the fantastic people behind it. So yes, please, if there's anybody out there who's interested in speaking with Mohammed, please do get in touch. His slides, if you're interested in looking at them again, he's already linked to them in the Etherpad to the Commons storage for them. So they're there for anybody to check up on again. So what we're going to do now is we will leave up the video feed for perhaps a minute, just to allow the chat to come to a conclusion in case there's any outstanding answers that need to come in through the questions. And apart from that, we will see you in about 35 minutes for Pau Cabo's Wikidata Infobox session. Thank you so much again, Mohammed. It was wonderful to meet you. And thank you very much for sharing your expertise.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you so much.
Bye.